Hello and welcome to News Round, a recap of stories that made the headlines during the week. I'm Victor Matthias. First, the headlines. INEC declares results for governorship, houses of assembly elections across the country. Appeal court affirms the election of Ademola Adeleke as the validly elected governor of Osun State, sets aside tribunal judgment that nullified his election. An UK criminal court convicts former deputy president of the Senate, Ike Ekweremadu, his wife Beatrice, and a doctor, Obinna Obeta, of organ trafficking. Plus, road blockade burns on 9th day of French pension reform protests. Now, over the last weekend, Nigerians were at the polls again across 28 states to elect governors and lawmakers that will serve for the next 4 years. The governorship and state houses of assembly elections were largely peaceful in some parts of the country, but there were cases of violence and voter apathy in some other states. 48 hours after the polls, the electoral umpire, INEC, began declaring winners that emerged and are to take up the reins of leadership in those states. Now, some states in the north where winners in the governorship poll were announced, including Sokoto, Borno, Bauchi, Nasarawa, Plateau, Benue, and Jigawa states, amongst others.
And members of
The candidate of the All Progressives Congress APC, Malam Namadi Alhaji of Jigawa State, has won the 2023 governorship election.
the returning officer
Announcing the results, the state returning officer, Professor Zayanu Umar of the Federal University, Birnin Kebbi, stated that the All Progressives Congress candidate won the election with 618,449 votes, whereas the PDP candidate, Mustafa Lamido, scored 368,726 votes.
Namadi Umar Alhaji of APC, having satisfied the requirements of the law, is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected.
In Kwara State, INEC's declaration that the incumbent governor Abdurrahman Abdurazak was the winner of the 2023 governorship election in the state was met with reactions.
I want to thank Almighty God for making this election a peaceful one, the one where Kwarans have been able to speak the preference of whom they want.
We have seen the results being presented today. We have taken note of the results. So we will go back and look at those results and examine it against what our agents have collated, and we'll take it from there.
The returning officer, Professor Isaac Itodo, the Vice Chancellor of Federal University of Agriculture, Makurdi, who certified the results of the governorship and House of Assembly elections in the state, declared Governor Abdurrahman Abdurazak winner of the poll with a score of 273,442 votes, and the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Abdullahi Yaman, scored 155,490 votes. The incumbent governor of Gombe State, Inuwa Yahaya of the All Progressives Congress, has been declared as the winner of the governorship elections. The returning officer for the Gombe State governorship election, Professor Maimuna Waziri, said Inuwa Yahaya of the All Progressives Congress scored 342,821 votes to beat 13 other candidates who contested in the election. The runner-up is the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Mohammed Barde, who scored 233,131 votes. The candidate of the New Nigeria People's Party, Kamisu Melantarki, came third with 19,861 votes, while the Labour Party candidate, Keftin Amuga, came fourth with 1,753 votes. Meanwhile, the incumbent governor of Yobe State, Mai Mala Buni, has been declared as the winner of the 2023 governorship election in the state. Announcing the results at the INEC headquarters in Damaturu, the state capital, the state returning officer, Professor Umar Bate, revealed Mai Mala Buni of the All Progressives Congress scored 317,113 votes to defeat his closest rival, Sheriff Abdullahi of the PDP, who scored 104,259 votes. Mai Mala Buni is returning as the governor of the state for the second time under the platform of the All Progressives Congress.
And in the southern part of the country, more winners are made known.
States across the country are now aware of who will govern them in the next 4 years following the announcement of the various winners.
That's Ogo Reverie Sheriff Francis Orewedo of the PDP, having satisfied the requirements of the law, is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected.
The candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Sheriff Oborewori of Delta State, in praise and worship mood after he was declared winner by the state returning officer, Professor Georgewell Owunari. He polled a total of 360,234 votes, beating his closest rival, the Deputy Senate President, who is the candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Senator Ovie Omoagege, who scored a total of 240,229, while the Labour Party candidate Kennedy Pella came a distant third with 48,047. Honorable Oborewori, the current Speaker of the Delta State House of Assembly, claims 21 out of the 25 local government areas of the state, leaving the APC with just 4 local government areas.
We are glad that we have won. I want a peaceful state, and I'm calling on my former opponents to come together so that we can work together and to rebuild this state.
Is hereby declaring winner.
Another South state of Cross River, Senator Basi Otu of the All Progressives Congress, APC, was declared winner of the governorship race with a total of 258,619 votes, defeating his closest opponent, Senator Sandy Ono of the People's Democratic Party, who pooled a total vote of 179,636. The All Progressives Congress won in 15 local government areas of Cross River State out of 18 results declared by INEC in Calabar.
I'm happy. I believe that the highest call in this world is when your people want you to serve them. And I think I'm very happy, and I thank God for today.
In Ebonyi State, southeast Nigeria, INEC declared APC candidate Mr. Francis Nwufuru as governor-elect for the state. The APC candidate, who is the current Speaker of the State House of Assembly, polled a total of 199,131 votes, putting the People's Democratic Party candidate Ifeanyi Odi in second position with 80,191 votes, and Professor Ben Odo of the All Progressives Grand Alliance ABGA, who came in third with 52,189 votes. Some states are yet to know who will emerge winner, but in the coming days, all that will be made clear.
Now, staying with the elections, the legal battle over the outcome of the presidential poll seems set to begin, as the Labour Party and its candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, have formally filed a petition at the Election Petition Tribunal in Abuja, challenging the declaration of Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu of the All Progressives Congress as the winner of the presidential election. The petitioners are praying for the tribunal to declare that the president-elect was not duly elected by a majority of the lawful votes cast at the election. They also want, among other prayers, an order mandating INEC to retrieve the certificate of return issued to the APC candidate and issue a fresh one to Mr. Obi.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, conducted the presidential and National Assembly elections and has declared Bola Ahmed Tinubu the president-elect. The declaration has since been rejected by his opponents, Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party and Peter Obi of the Labour Party, who have vowed to challenge the outcome of the election in court. The failure of INEC to upload election results to the INEC Result Viewing Portal, IREV, in real time using the BVAS are some of the reasons why Mr. Obi is challenging the presidential election and the declaration of Bola Tinubu of the All Progressives Congress as the winner of the presidential election. Parts of his demands at the Election Petition Tribunal include: he wants an order mandating INEC to retrieve the certificate of return issued to Mr. Tinubu and issue a fresh one to him. Alternatively, Mr. Obi is asking the tribunal to make an order cancelling the election and compelling INEC to conduct a fresh election at which Tinubu, Shetima and the APC will not participate. The petitioners specifically alleged that at the time of the elections, Tinubu was not qualified to contest. They also argued that the election was invalid by reason of corrupt practices and non-compliance with the provision of the Electoral Act of 2022. Similarly, the Action Alliance and the Allied People's Movement have equally lodged separate petitions to challenge the outcome of the presidential election. The candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, is expected to file his own petition before midnight of March the 21st, when the deadline will elapse. Section 132, subsection 7 and 8 of the Electoral Act of 2022 stipulates that election petitions must be filed within 21 days after the date of the declaration of results of the elections, and the tribunal shall deliver a judgment in writing within 180 days from the date of the filing of the petition. Section 134 of the 2022 Electoral Act provides that a party who intends to challenge the process and outcome of an election can do so on the following grounds. 1. A person whose election is questioned was at the time of the election not qualified to contest the election. 2. The election was invalid by reason of corrupt practices and non-compliance with the provisions of this Act. And 3. The respondent was not duly elected by the majority of the lawful votes cast at the election.
Now, still on the presidential poll, the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Atiku Abubakar, is also asking the Presidential Election Petition Court in Abuja to declare him the winner of the February 25th presidential election or order a rerun between him and the president-elect, Senator Bola Tinubu. He is challenging the election on 4 grounds, which are that the election of Senator Tinubu is invalid by reason of non-compliance with the provisions of the Electoral Act 2022 and also invalid by reason of electoral corrupt practices.
The presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Atiku Abubakar, was able to meet the deadline to file his petition against the presidential election that produced Senator Bola Tinubu as the president-elect. Just like the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Obi is asking the Presidential Election Petition Court in Abuja to declare him the winner of the February 25th presidential election or order a rerun between him and the president-elect. The other alternative is for the entire exercise to be nullified and a fresh one conducted.
Martial assistance training.
The petition also states that Senator Tinubu was not duly elected by the majority of lawful votes cast, and at the time of the election, he was not qualified to contest the election in the first place. They're also praying the court for the following: that it may be determined that the president-elect was not duly elected by the majority of lawful votes cast in the election, and therefore the declaration and return of him by INEC as the winner of the presidential election is unlawful, wrong, unconstitutional, and void. They also want to determine that the return of Senator Tinubu by INEC was unlawful, having not satisfied the requirements of the Electoral Act of 2022 and the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, which requires that he scores nothing less than 1/4 of the lawful votes cast at the election in each of at least 2/3 of all the states in the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory. That it should be determined that Senator Tinubu was at the time of the election not qualified to contest the said election. That it should be determined that Mr. Atiku Abubakar, having scored the majority of lawful votes cast at the presidential election, be returned as the winner of the said election and sworn in as a duly elected president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. In the alternative, he is asking the court for an order directing INEC to conduct a runoff between him and Senator Tinubu. That the election to the office of the President of Nigeria, held on February the 25th, 2023, be nullified and a fresh election be ordered. No date has been fixed for the commencement of the hearing.
Still to come on News Round, the Court of Appeal has affirmed Senator Adeleke as the elected governor of Osun State. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Now, the Court of Appeal has affirmed Senator Adeleke as the validly elected governor of Osun State, setting aside the tribunal judgment that nullified his election earlier. In a unanimous judgment by a 3-member panel of justices led by Justice Mohammed Lawal, the appellate court held that the appeal by Senator Adeleke challenging his sack by the Osun State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal was meritorious.
The courtroom of the appellate court in Abuja is filled with lawyers and party supporters of the People's Democratic Party and the All Progressives Congress of Osun State. They wait patiently for the decision of the court on who won the Osun governorship election. The 3-member panel of justices, led by Justice Mohammed Lawal, set aside the judgment of the election tribunal in Osun State and dismissed the allegation of overvoting, which is the basis upon which the tribunal anchored its decision, which nullified Mr. Adeleke's victory. The court added that it was inconceivable to assume that the testimonies of Mr. Oyetola's witnesses had any probative value. The Court of Appeal further held that Mr. Oyetola and the APC did not tender the voters' register and bimodal voter accreditation system BVAS machines, which captured data of eligible voters at the Osun governorship election. The court held that the foundation of what transpired at the polling units would only be established by the evidence that is contained in the voters' register and the BVAS machines. On the issue of jurisdiction, the court states that Section 285, subsection 8 of the Constitution gives the court the very right to entertain the appeal. The court also awarded 500,000 naira against the All Progressives Congress APC and its governorship candidates in the election, Mr. Gboyega Oyetola. The appellate court also dismissed Mr. Oyetola's cross-appeal, which is on the education qualification of Mr. Adeleke, stating that a judgment in 2019 has laid it to rest that he did not forward the certificate presented at the 2018 governorship election. The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) declared Mr. Adeleke of the People's Democratic Party (PDP) as the winner of the governorship election held in Osun State on July the 16th, 2022.
All the appeals filed by the governor-elect Senator Adeleke, he won his appeal. The PDP as a political party won his appeal. INEC as an appellant before this court of appeal won the appeal. So the totality of the appeal presented before the court of appeal herein have succeeded, and the court has affirmed that Senator Adeleke remains the governor of Osun State.
There are so many issues involved in this appeal. Some of the issues we won, some of a bit more of the issues we lost. Overall, we lost the appeal. But it's so interesting that we believe that as soon as we collect the various judgments, which are all more or less the same, by Monday we would study the judgment and then make our decision.
The last available option to Mr. Gboyega Oyetola and the All Progressives Congress is the Supreme Court, a decision that the candidate and the party are yet to make public.
And away from the courts, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria has voted to increase the benchmark interest rate by 50 basis points to 18%. Addressing journalists at the end of the two-day meeting in Abuja, the CBN governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, says the committee voted to keep the asymmetric corridor at plus 100 and minus 500 basis points around the MPR. The tightening of the rates, according to the Apex Bank governor, is expected to curtail inflation, currently put at 21%.
It's the second time the Monetary Policy Committee will be holding its meeting this year. Unlike when the meeting was held in January, this is coming at a time when Nigerians are grappling with the effects of the redesigned Naira notes. The central bank governor highlights how activities in the global markets are affecting the domestic economy, while highlighting the role of the bank in the maintenance of both fiscal and monetary policy through its interventions in the real sector.
The bank also released the sum of 23.7 billion under the 1 trillion naira real sector support facility to 8 new real sector projects in agriculture, manufacturing and services. Cumulative disbursements under the real sector facility currently stands at 2.43 trillion disbursed to 462 projects across the country, comprising 257 manufacturing, 95 agriculture, 97 services, and 13 mining sector projects.
And then he states the key decisions of the Monetary Policy Committee.
The MPC therefore voted as follows. 1. Raise the MPR to 18%. 2. Retain the asymmetric corridor at plus 100 and minus 500 basis points around the MPR. 3. Retain the CRR at 32.5%. And 4. Retain liquidity ratio at 30%.
The central bank, through the Monetary Policy Committee, notes that it is not oblivious to the sufferings of Nigerians, as some of the concerns raised, which include the lack of access to cash and difficulty in network connectivity, amongst others, are being sorted out. He reassures that the nation's commercial banks remain resilient and are contributing their quota to the nation's development.
Committee thus called on the other depository corporations, online payment platforms, and other stakeholders to ensure that the prevailing incidence of network failures is overcome in the immediate and short term. This would ensure that the Naira redesign and cash withdrawal policies lead to an improved inroad of the CBN cashless policy program and efficiency of the transmission mechanism of monetary policy.
The bank expects the Nigerian economy to receive some boost following the interventions from the Apex Bank, which is running into trillions of naira. The bank hopes to continue seeking ways to control all inflationary indices as well as reduce the sufferings faced by Nigerians due to the naira redesign.
And outside the shores of the country, the United Kingdom, where former Deputy President of the Senate, Ike Ekweremadu, his wife Beatrice, and a doctor, Obinna Obeta, have been found guilty of organ trafficking. According to the criminal court in London, the three persons criminally conspired to bring the 21-year-old Lagos street trader to London to harvest his kidney for the Ekweremadu's ailing daughter, Sonia. Sonia Ekweremadu was, however, found not guilty of the charge.
Well, today's verdict at the Old Bailey is the first of its kind under the Modern Slavery Act of England and Wales, and it took jurors just 14 hours to determine that the senator, alongside his wife Beatrice and Obinna Obeta, were guilty of the charges against them. Sonia Ekweremadu, the key figure in this organ harvesting plot, wept profusely when she learned that she was found not guilty. Bearing in mind, Sonia Ekweremadu gave a no-comment interview to police and did not defend herself in court. Well, over the span of 6 weeks, prosecutors were able to convince the jury that the Ekweremadus used their power, their wealth and their might to illegally traffic this 21-year-old man who cannot be named for legal reasons into London to harvest his organ for their sick daughter. Now, I think it's important to bear in mind that it isn't illegal to donate your kidney in this country. What is illegal is to offer a financial reward, and that's exactly what they have been found guilty of. Well, as to be expected, the verdict has garnered plenty of international headlines, but also public sympathy too. Let's not forget that Sonia Ekweremadu is still suffering from a debilitating kidney disease. In fact, during evidence read out in court, doctors confirmed that they weren't sure if a kidney donation would indeed save her life. Just 24 hours ago, the devoted wife of the senator was taking care of her daughter. Tonight, she spends her first evening in jail. We're expecting a sentencing date shortly. Juliana Olayinka, reporting for Channels Television News in London.
And finally, on News Round, dumpsters burned in the middle of a French road as protesters entered the 9th day of strikes against a deeply unpopular bill to raise the pension age. Video shows the burning makeshift roadblock in Toulouse, emitting a large plume of smoke while cars queued up behind it. French President Emmanuel Macron said the legislation, which his government pushed through Parliament without a vote last week, would come into force by year-end despite escalating anger across the country. Protests against the policy changes, which lifts the retirement age by 2 years to 64 and accelerate an increase in the number of years one must work to draw a full pension, have drawn huge crowds and rallies organized by unions since January. And that's News Round this week. Thank you so very much for watching. I'm Victor Matthias.